Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all got to enjoy the beautiful weather this weekend and look forward to a week of sunshine. Um, so I really enjoyed watching the video on critical issues facing student affairs, and I feel like it was a really good sum of everything that we've learned this semester. The Division of Student Affairs is really the reason that I fell in love with the institution that I work for and attended for my undergraduate career. And I really don't think that I would be here or pursuing a degree in higher education if it wasn't for a student affairs role in my life. I don't work in student affairs now, but I do think it's probably an end goal for me. So I like to hear from these professionals and, get to learn more from them. I do believe they had some interesting and thoughtful insights into some of the critical issues. The most reflective and interesting piece that I got from the video stemmed from the very first question when Heather asked the student affairs professionals what they see as the critical issue facing higher education broadly and student affairs specifically, and what they've done to prepare their division to effectively respond. Deb brought up a great point that they have to ensure that their work is relevant to the academy and impactful to student learning. I know, some people think just the notion of working in student affairs that it's kind of defeats the purpose, or it's like, someone said making balloon animals and, eating snow cones on the common area on campus. But it's so much more than that. But they do have to make sure that they relate it back to student learning and assess how their impact is affecting student learning. One thing that I thought was super interesting, and I'll touch on later, was the importance of meeting students where they're at in terms of social media, as if this is going to help them navigate college and be successful. Dwayne had the most touching answer for me going back to the critical issue of student affairs, and that's that students and parents are demanding more accountability for the money that they are investing. As costs are increasing, their expectations are increasing too, and rightly so. They expect excellent service, accommodations, education, and I love that he says that he thinks they deserve it. He addresses the critical issues or tension to the fact that it does come at a price to meet those expectations. He elaborates on the fact that we have to woo students with a fun, sexy experience to beat out the competitor schools and to yield students. We have to spend more and more money to reach our target students and recruit and retain faculty and staff. He makes an interesting analogy that it's like a never-ending drumbeat, that it's picking up tempo, and he wonders where the ceiling or stop to spending more and more money to meet needs and expectations of everyone, when that's going to be. This brief answer alone touched on so many modules that we addressed throughout the semester: Higher Ed Today, Understanding the Setting, Human Resources, Budgeting, and Program Management. Interestingly enough, this is my favorite answer, and these were also my favorite modules that we reviewed over the semester. I think coming from an admissions background and, being in the role I am now as an academic advisor, I see two interesting sides of the spectrum. I've been in the recruiting mindset and front-facing with students and parents to sell them on KSU, the education, the experience, the whole package that you get here. This also means relaying the cost of the whole package and putting worth and value into the story that we're telling them. In the same stride, I also had to have an understanding of the budget that we had to work with while recruiting students and families and traveling all over the place. Some institutions can crank out the word that I hate that they call swag and gifts to woo students and pull them in. But for us as a public institution, it was more about our story rather than the gifts or swag that we could use to bring them in. We tried to use more of our marketing and like road pieces to pull students in. And now as an academic advisor, I'm able to be a part of the story and ensure that I understand students that are struggling or have needs that need to be met. I understand that I'm a resource that they are paying for, and I need to treat them as a student, but also as a paying customer who is investing their time, money, and energy to be here. So back to the issue that I believe student affairs professionals may have harped a little too much on or kind of got sideways on the critical issue of social media and the role that it plays. Early on, Deb highlighted that it was a critical piece that we need to use to engage students and ensure student success. And then way later, around minute 57, they dove into this topic again. I understand Deb is excited to be on Twitter, but it seems like he's trying a little too hard, and it's not too natural for him. I also don't necessarily agree with how Laura Bayless uses social media to message students or to get a hold of them if they're not answering their email. I just question, how far is too far? Documentation and the role that we play is important, and I believe messaging students on social media could give off the wrong impression. As a student, if I got direct messaged by a higher ed professional or one of my professors, I would feel pretty weirded out, and I guess indifferent, or just weirded out. I believe there just comes a point where we don't need to baby students. Responsibility must be learned at some point or another. And once again, I thought Dwayne had the best answer to this question. He said, it's important to be natural with social media and not try to force it if it's not your thing. It could be a great marketing tool, but I think it's important that we make sure how we're using it is appropriate. To wrap up, along with the modules that I touched on earlier, I really like the module on campus crisis. In my current and previous roles in higher ed, I never really thought of myself as needing to be prepared for a crisis. I've gone through trainings that they've offered, but I never really felt the weight of being prepared for a crisis. I guess I've always thought that it's someone else's duty, but this module resonated with me and was a wake-up call to be prepared and ready for anything to happen before, during, and after an emergency takes place. But again, there were several modules that I thought were interesting. So thank you for an awesome semester. This was definitely the class that I have enjoyed the most so far in the program. So have a great day.